automobile race. It's a scene of tremendous excitement and nostalgia. It's 1970 personified by the latest and fastest automobiles in the world, and it's still 1911. That was the year that it all began here. 52 times since 1911, the race has been run again. And today, it'll be Al Unser on the pole. He qualified at a speed of more than 170 miles an hour. Alongside of him, the outsider in the field, and the surprise, Johnny Rutherford. There go the balloons in the infield, the traditional sign that the Indianapolis 500 is not far away. Rounding out the first row will be A.J. Foyt. The defending champion, of course, is Mario Andretti, and all the other great drivers of American automobile racing. You'll be seeing the 1970 Indianapolis 500 today on ABC's Wide World of Sports. It's still a few minutes before the start of the 1970 Indianapolis 500. However, there's plenty of activity right now, specifically in the pit area. And standing by down there is our colleague on these ABC Racing telecasts, Chris Economaki, the editor of National Speed Sport News. Chris?
And here's the defending champion of the 1969 race, Mario Andretti, with a brand new #1 STP special. Mario, how do you like your new car?
The car is performing quite well today. We're really looking for a good day.
Your car owner, Andy Granatelli, has a stern look on his face. Andy, what are your thoughts right now?
I'm just hoping we can repeat last year.
And here's perennial Indianapolis standout, A.J. Foyt.
A.J., you look calm and collected before this one. 61, 64, 67, and it's 3 years to 1970. Are you concerned about number 4?
Well, we're just hoping the day's today.
What do you think about it?
Well, I think our chance is real good. We probably won't take off and charge it first, and just play it by ear and just see how the race pans out. The biggest factor is today is the weather.
But the solid favorite is the driver of car number 2, the Johnny Lightning Special, Al Unser of Albuquerque, winner of the pole position. And another contender is road racing star Mark Donahue.
Mark, last year you were a rookie. You won the Rookie of the Year award. What about the 1969 500? What was it that surprised you the most?
Well, I think during the month of May last year, I ran a lot of laps, but I never ran really close to anybody. And this year, or rather last year when the race started, I had a whole new ball game to learn. This year, I hope I've learned a little bit of it. I'm sure I haven't learned as much as it can be learned, but I think I'll be a little more familiar with running with these other fellows that are competing in the race.
Second place winner the last 2 years is Dan Gurney, and like many others, thinking about winning. Hard luck champion of the 500 is Texan Lloyd Ruby, cheated out of 3 wins. Another Texan is Johnny Rutherford, who holds a front row starting place. Art Pollard, at 42, is the only grandfather in the race, and another of the favorites in this, the 54th running of the Indianapolis 500. Now, back to you, Jim.
Right now, I'm standing with a 2-time winner of this classic, often our colleague on ABC Automobile Racing broadcast, Roger Ward. Roger's assignment today is a little bit different, sort of a roving reporter, starting, interestingly enough, driving the pace car.
Yes, and I'm very excited about that because this will be the first time for me on this particular assignment, and it's a pleasure to be in front of 33 such great race drivers.
I should think that it would be. What about the race itself and some of the stories you might find for us?
Well, I think this year the race is going to be much more competitive than it's been for a long time. Actually, if you sized it up, you'd realize that all 33 cars are using either turbocharged Offenhausers or turbocharged Fords.
Well, that's the Offie on the left and the Ford on the right, and you can clearly see the difference between them, I think.
Yes, the Offie's a 4-cylinder engine. It's very reliable in the past. Perhaps not quite as much horsepower as the Ford, but a little better right off the turns. The Ford has some additional straightaway speed, but perhaps not quite as strong coming off the turn. So you have to kind of balance that out. And I think for this reason alone, the car is so nearly horse-powered that it's going to be a very competitive race. Of course, the cars are quite equal also. The mechanics have been working with these cars for several years now and very familiar with it. So should be a great and interesting race.
So the machines are pretty even. Again, at Indy, it's man against man. Roger, I think it's pace car time for you. Good luck out there.
Jim, and I'm going to have to rush down there and get in the car.
Okay, keep it under 170, will you?
I'll do that.
We'll be talking to you later. Roger Ward. Well, now we have another interesting story for you just before the race begins. The cars are in 11 rows of 3 each. But how did they get there? Well, let's find out. Certainly not by the luck of the draw. The cars, as you see them here, earned their places in a strictly defined system of qualification. It happens on 4 days over 2 weekends. On May 16th, the first day, there were 33 empty places in 11 rows of 3. Whoever would qualify fastest on that first day would win the number 1 or pole position, a good deal of prestige, and about $20,000 in prize money. All who qualify on the first day are placed on the front rows, like this. Al Unser, youngest of the racing Unsers from Albuquerque, won the pole with the fastest time, averaging 170.221 miles per hour for his 4-lap or 10-mile qualification run. He drove a turbocharged Ford engine PJ Colt. And so he earned his place on the inside of the front row. Second fastest qualifier was a big surprise. 32-year-old Johnny Rutherford of Fort Worth was a top driver until he broke both arms in a 1966 accident. Since then, it's been a slow comeback. But he toured the course in his turbo Offenhauser Eagle car, only 8 1/1000ths of a mile per hour slower than Unser, and sits in the number 2 position. Rounding out the first row is the man who seems most at home in Indy, 3-time winner A.J. Foyt. His Coyote, built by him, powered by Ford, was just 0.2 of a mile per hour off the pole. He seeks an unprecedented 4th victory here. Roger McCluskey, almost 40 years old now, has raced 8 times here, led twice, but has never finished. Clint Bronner, chief mechanic on last year's winning car, now is with McCluskey, and the car sits on the inside of the second row. Next to him is last year's rookie of the race, Mark Donohue, the sports car driving star, graduate of Brown University. And then there's the 43-year-old racing grandfather from Oregon, Art Pollard. Row 3 shows 2 former winners. Bobby Unser on the inside, winner 2 years ago. And in the middle, last year's champion, Mario Andretti. Mario's in a new car this time, made in Germany by a former American Green Beret officer named Francis McNamara. Look for car number 1 to be charging from that 3rd row position. It's an Indy oddity, by the way, that no car has ever won from this starting spot. 9th starting position that first day went to the versatile Jimmy Malloy. All told, 17 qualified that first day. 10 more earned places the next afternoon. But according to Indy rules, they were placed behind the first day qualifiers, even though some were faster in speed. Lloyd Ruby, one of the favorites and the all-time hard luck racer at this track, blew 3 engines trying to make the field on the second day. He finally made it on the following Saturday when the field was filled out to its full number. After that came the bumping sequence. In this, a car going faster than the slowest qualifier to date replaces that car, not in its position in the lineup, but at the end of the field. Top drivers further back in the field today are Dan Gurney in the 4th row, Peter Revson, Gordon Johncock, and Joe Leonard all in the 6th. In row 9, Jack Brabham and Ruby. Ruby should be flat out from the start. And now, another of the great traditional moments here at Indy. Here's Tony Hulman for the 25th year.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
And so the cry of the Indianapolis race car is heard across the land again. 33 cars ready for the start now. There's Andretti, there's Bobby Unser, who won 2 years ago alongside of him. They'll be rolling in just a moment. Our colleague Roger Ward down in the pace car, and we're a little late getting underway, Chris.
Well, the rain delayed us for about 25 minutes, and good news here, all 33 engines have fired up.
Nobody gets left on the start. Usually that does happen to somebody or other. It's just a matter of seconds now until the beginning of the 1970 Indianapolis 500. The cars behind the pace car driven by Roger Ward are on the backstretch. Let's set the field for you in the first rows. On the inside, Al Unser. In the middle, Johnny Rutherford. And on the outside, A.J. Foyt. In the second row, it's McCluskey on the inside, Donohue in the middle, Pollard on the outside. The third row, Bobby Unser on the inside, Andretti in the middle, and Jimmy Malloy on the outside. The rest of the cars strung out behind them.
It's interesting to note, Jim, that the first 6 cars are all of different manufacture. Unser being in a Colt, Rutherford in an Eagle, Foyt in a Coyote he built himself, McCluskey in a Scorpion, Mark Donohue in a British-made Lola, and Art Pollard in a King.
Okay, well, they're coming out of the 4th turn. The green flag is out in the hand of starter Pat Badan. Looks like we're going to get it this time. Roger Ward pulling off. Look, a car's out of control. It's Jimmy Malloy in the 3rd row who suddenly hit the wall, spun across the track, and Pat Badan has put down the green flag and has the yellow out. This race is being put under a caution flag before it has begun. What in the world could that have been?
Jim, I honestly don't know. He had some kind of trouble, but the miraculous aspect of this is that no other car touched him. He hit the outside wall, spun through the field laterally from the outside of the track to the inside of the track, and everyone avoided him. boy, what a beautiful driving on the part of the other drivers.
It certainly was, and now just 32 cars are out there, still technically on a pace lap. Let's see what happened. Here it is in slow motion, Chris. There we see the arrow indicating Malloy's car.
Well, whatever it was, it sent him into the outside wall. He bounced off and came spinning across the track. It looks as though the left rear suspension is seriously damaged, and that may have been what sent him into the wall. Missing other cars just by inches.
Malloy himself is okay, and there you see his car. Not too much in the way of visible damage. These other cars here are probably not aware of what has happened yet. They're going to be slowing them down as they get to the fourth turn, but they're going to have to brake pretty hard, even though they're not at racing speed.
The yellow light is on around the track, Jim.
Here they are, being cautioned to slow down, to move out by track workers and safety men. And now the yellow flag is being replaced by the red flag. So the 1970 Indianapolis 500 is being stopped before it has even begun. That must be a first.
They've had trouble here in recent years at the beginning, and here we have it again in 1970. We hope that Malloy can get his car back into the field.
The question now is whether these cars will start in their rows of three for a normal start, or whether, having been red flagged, they'll be put in single file to start. But now the word comes, they're going to line up as they did for another start.
It'll be a complete restart, and the word is that Malloy's car suffered a broken right rear radius rod and is damaged to the degree that it cannot join the field on the restart.
There you see the crews coming back out again. This is not very good for race cars to have to start just when they've gotten underway or are just ready to race.
Well, the fuel situation with the Fords is a bit critical. There's Malloy walking back, a very disappointed fellow, but he'll get 33rd place when it's all over.
And more than $10,000, and he never ran a lap. Again, we return to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to again try to get this race started. Not one lap has been run as yet, and already there's been an accident. Only 32 cars will now come to the start. Roger Ward in the pace car, now pulling off the track again. And again, Pat Vadan has the green flag ready.
They topped off with fuel, Jim, which pleased the Ford drivers.
There's the green flag. They're racing at Indianapolis and into the first turn. There's Johnny Rutherford in his yellow car, number 18, taking the lead. Rutherford, the outsider, who amazingly almost won the pole, is now in first place. Just behind him is Al Unser, the pole winner, and then A.J. Boyd, who is on the outside of that first row. They're the first three cars right now. Unser, however, moving out. He's going to try to pass Rutherford just as quickly. On the backstretch, Al Unser in his blue and gold Johnny Lightning Special has taken the lead. Al Unser is the leader. Rutherford is second, and Boyd is still third.
The speed down the back straightaway, Jim, touches and sometimes exceeds 200 miles an hour.
A good tight look at the leader in second place car. There's Unser, car number 2. And Rutherford, number 18. A.J. Boyd is car number 7. Lloyd Ruby, who started in 27th position, is going like crazy. He has already passed 10 cars on the first lap. He's going to get into it. And there you see him on the outside, passing a whole bunch of cars, but now dropping into position for the first turn again. Back to the leader, Al Unser.
Ruby said he was going to charge, and charge he is, but Unser, going better now than 164 miles an hour, is starting to pull away.
He is pulling out in first place, and Johnny Rutherford in second place is also moving out of the rest of the pack. There's Mario Andretti trying to pass Roger Donahue, but dropping back into position as we go up to the leader again.
That number 2 car of Unser's is handling beautifully, running like it was on rails.
Roger Ward is back with us at our commentary position now, having driven the pace car and having driven it exceedingly well, Roger.
They liked it.
Here is Lloyd Ruby again, excuse me, Chris, but Ruby continues to move up through the field. Pretty soon he's going to have all of the slower cars passed and move up among the leaders.
He's trying to get by stock car driver Leroy Yarborough, and Mike Mosley is following him closely.
Back up on front, the leaders remain the same, and Al Unser continues to stretch it out. All the month of May, he's been the fastest car here. Fastest in qualifying, and he's sure the fastest today in the early laps. It's a long race, though. Now there is Art Pollard moving out to try to pass A.J. Boyd for third place. Pollard right in the middle of the track, and he's got him. Mario Andretti tried to get Mark Donahue, but was shut off. So Andretti drops back into 6th place in his red STP special. Here is Art Pollard now in 3rd place. A.J. Foyt is 4th, Donahue 5th, and Andretti 6th, and all of those cars close together.
With all the talk about Ford superiority, Unser's cars are Ford, but we have 2 Offenhausers in 2nd and 3rd place, the machines of Rutherford and Pollard.
And Lloyd Ruby there has now passed everybody but the top 9 cars. He's passed all of the slower machines and will soon be challenging, it looks like.
He's got that mongoose really rolling.
Lloyd Ruby, the hard luck man, could have won the race last year and the year before. Blew 3 engines on 1 day of qualifying here, but he's back in the thick of it. And now we're back up to that battle for 3rd place. It's Pollard, and then Foyt, and then Donahue in the blue car, Andretti. And behind him we have Bobby Unser, and there's Dan Gurney, then Roger McCluskey. Those are your lead cars at the moment. As I said, Roger Ward, you had a nice ride in the pace car, it looked like.
Well, I certainly did, Jim. As a matter of fact, I had to work a little overtime, but it was enjoyable.
Okay, well, the man having perhaps not an enjoyable, but certainly an exciting ride right now is Lloyd Ruby.
Jim, in Ruby's pit are the astronauts Pete Conrad and Dick Gordon from the Apollo 12 mission, and are they ever tickled to see the way he's going?
Well, he certainly has done a tremendous job of driving up to this point, but now the work really begins. He's passed most of the slower automobiles. Now he has to catch the lead, and of course, from now on, every pass he makes will really be difficult because the drivers are really tough drivers.
Okay, now again, we're back to that battle for 3rd place. There's Art Pollard, who is 3rd, the racing grandfather from Medford, Oregon. But he's still very closely pursued. A.J. Foyt in 4th position, then Mark Donahue in car number 66, Mario Andretti, the defending champion, in car number 1, then Bobby Unser, then Dan Gurney, Roger McCluskey, and Lloyd Ruby is in 10th position. Greg Weld is pulling off the track. There's the first retirement, aside from Malloy, who crashed before the race began, in the 1970 Indianapolis 500.
Looks as though his engine went, and he's the 2nd man out, as you say, Jim.
Back to the racing, however. There is Foyt, there's Donahue and Andretti, and there Bobby Unser, who won 2 years ago. Remember, his brother is leading the race up in front. Lloyd Ruby, will repeat, is in 10th position. He started 27th. And he's never won the Indianapolis 500. Here's the way they stand. Unser, Rutherford, Pollard, Foyt, Donahue, Andretti, the other Unser, Gurney, McCluskey, and Ruby, and back in a minute. We return again to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is Jim McKay reporting along with Chrissy Kanamaki and Roger Ward. And look at the crowd. They're estimated at 300,000 here at Indianapolis this afternoon. Some 225,000 of them actually seated. There's Al Unser, who is leading the 1970 Indianapolis 500, stretching it out just a little bit all the time. But here is a car dropping down towards the infield. That is number 20, the car that won this race last year. This is the Hawk of Mario Andretti that he won with last season. Today being driven by George Falmer, but it looks like Falmer has had it for the afternoon.
He's the 3rd man out after Malloy and Weld, Jim.
Bobby Unser has now moved up into 3rd place, by the way, ahead of Art Pollard, and behind those 2 cars comes A.J. Foyt, Mario Andretti there, Roger McCluskey, Mark Donahue, Lloyd Ruby, now in 9th place, and Dan Gurney rounding out the top 10. There you see Foyt, number 7, number 1 is Andretti, and then McCluskey, number 11, who has been making as if he might like to pass Mario Andretti. You can see they're very, very close together. There's Lloyd Ruby moving out again, down towards the inside, trying to get past Mark Donahue, and here's McCluskey moving out on Andretti. McCluskey very quickly getting by Andretti, and now Ruby gets by Donahue. Lloyd Ruby, who started in the 9th row, is now in 8th position in the race. We asked him earlier how he planned to drive these early laps.
That'd be hard to say because all them cars up in front of me, they don't know where they're going. Sure, I don't, but the only thing I do is just try to work my way up to them and try to stay clear of all of them and try to get towards the front because it's really no time to wait back there because starting that far back, you wait, they get strung out, they'll be really strung out and they'll be so far in front of you, never would catch them.
Well, that was Lloyd Ruby before the race, and he has sure done what he said he was trying to do, get going early in the race. Here he is now challenging Mario Andretti for 7th place. right at the bottom of your screen. There they are. He's got them. Lloyd Ruby moving into 7th place ahead of Mario Andretti, and up ahead of them, there's quite a battle between Foyt and McCluskey. There's Lloyd Ruby, though, in the red, white, and blue Bill Daniels Cablevision Special. From the 9th row up into 7th place and still moving fast. There is McCluskey trying to take A.J. Foyt. The white car is McCluskey, and he's got him. McCluskey passing Foyt for 5th position in this race. And Lloyd Ruby now is moving up on A.J. Foyt. What a tremendous, virtuoso driving performance we're seeing here this afternoon. There's never been anything quite like it at Indianapolis. Lloyd Ruby, remember, has never won this race. 3 times before, he had a good shot at it. And now here he comes, trying to pass A.J. There's Ruby down on the inside, and he's got Foyt. He's moved into 6th place.
He's matching the speed of the leader, Jim, running over 164.
And now he tries for Roger McCluskey. Lloyd Ruby after another veteran, 40-year-old Roger McCluskey. This could put him into 5th position in the race, and then there will only be 4 to pass. And here he comes. Ruby right alongside McCluskey, and he's got him going into the first turn. Fantastic story here this afternoon of Lloyd Ruby. Remember, way up in front, Al Unser is still the leader in the race, but you have to stay with a performance like Ruby's putting out here today.
Ruby is the man the people are watching, Jim.
Top 10 right now, Al Unser the leader, Johnny Rutherford second, and Bobby Unser, Art Pollard. And here is McCluskey repassing Lloyd Ruby. So for the first time today, somebody has actually passed Ruby. It's Al Unser, Rutherford, Bobby Unser, Pollard, McCluskey, Ruby, Foyt, Andretti, Donahue, and Gurney.
And that McCluskey and Ruby, they know one another's idiosyncrasies and have great respect. There's going to be a ding-dong duel here for that position between these two Southwesterners. Ruby, incidentally, is driving a year-old automobile built for car owner Gene White by Dave Laycock here in Indianapolis. He decided against using his new car. Art Pollard, up to 3rd place earlier, is now out of it with apparently engine trouble in his number 10 car. Tough break for the Argon driver.
Car number 10, Art Pollard, has indeed had it for the afternoon. No question about this. When you see smoke pouring out of the engine and Art out of the car, the safety crews out instantly, as they always are here at Indianapolis. And the yellow flag has been brought out. And into the pits comes Mario Andretti. This is pretty early, even though the yellow's out.
It certainly is. As a matter of fact, this is entirely too early to be a regularly scheduled pit stop, so he has to have some kind of a problem. It looks as though they're working on the front of the automobile. Apparently, the body must have come loose and was flapping in the breeze, and Mario taking advantage of the yellow flag to try to get it fixed as rapidly as possible. They are also refueling the automobile while he's in there.
Okay, but this makes it certain. Apparently, he'll have to take 4 pit stops, and that's going to be real trouble for Mario. Chris Economiki's down in the pits there with Andy Granatelli. Chris?
What was that pit stop for Mario?
The Zeus button on the hood and the nose cone got loose.
Think it's going to hurt his chances?
No.
Quick pit stop for Mario Andretti. A hood button came loose and had to be refastened. While he was in, he took on fuel.
And so Al Unser continues to lead the Indianapolis 500. The green flag is out again at Indianapolis. Al Unser, the leader, into the first turn as Pat Finan gives them the flag. Unser with a comfortable lead, remember, over 2nd place Johnny Rutherford, and then the rest of the top 10 battling it out behind them.
There's 4 rookies in the field this year, Jim. Greg Well, who's out of it already, Rick Muther, Dick Simon, and Donnie Allison, who's driving one of 4 A.J. Foyt-entered cars in the competition. And the 3 remaining rookies seem to be doing quite well in the staying out of trouble department.
Well, of course, by the time a rookie comes to Indianapolis, he is really not what you would consider a rookie, because he has done a tremendous amount of racing. In fact, most of these men would have at one time or another competed against the men here at Indianapolis. So actually, they know pretty well what to expect out of these drivers.
Ruby is in his 11th Indianapolis 500, and A.J. is in his 13th 500. Between them, 24 Indianapolis starts, the most experienced men in the field.
One thing that is helping Lloyd a great deal is the fact that his crew is giving him the time difference between himself and the leader, Al Unser. So he knows exactly where he is in regard to the lead, and he's trying to maintain that and not drop back any, and actually has been able to do it, which, and this will inspire a driver. I think this is one of the things that's kept him going as hard as he has.
The fact that there's a few cars between he and the leader doesn't seem to matter to the pit crew then, Roger?
It certainly doesn't.
Boy, the traffic is all heavy. It seems to be centered on one side of the track, and look at the action going in here. Whoa, and that is known as closing the gate in racing parlance, but Ruby handled it beautifully, went a little bit wide, and that must be a nerve-shattering experience.
It certainly is, but you can tell how beautifully his car is handling. When a man goes into the turn that hard, slides clear out of the group, and still able to save it, you know that his car is really performing and handling beautifully.
Tremendous competition and heavy traffic on the straightaway here. Ruby and A.J. Foyt battling through traffic. George Snyder, number 84, one of Foyt's other drivers, a lap down. The groove seems to have widened here at Indianapolis thanks to the wider tires. Before, all drivers had to take a rather narrow line entering the turn, but this year they have more latitude, it seems, as you can see by the black streak throughout the corners and onto the straights.
I don't recall ever having seen so many cars running so close together as we have right now, and certainly it's a tremendous performance on the part of these drivers not to get mixed up and cause some sort of an accident, because everyone is really driving hard.
Ruby is getting way down below the white line in the corner, showing how well that car is sticking in the turns. Here's a spectator's eye view, that high wheel fence to protect them should parts fly off a car. Drivers whizzing by the vertical references, making them look as though they're going even faster. Now, here's Jim McKay with Art Pollard.
Art, that's too bad just when you were running so well. What happened to the car?
I think we blew a piston, Jim. It vibrated pretty badly and started missing, and then smoked out the turbocharger, out the exhaust, so that's a pretty good indication I blew a piston.
No symptoms of it before that, though, huh?
No, the car was running pretty fair. Had a slight handling problem. It was understeering considerably in the number 3 and 4 turns, and that was the only thing that was bothering me. Other than that, I think it was going to settle down and be pretty good.
And Al Unser continues to lead with Johnny Rutherford second. His speed cut now to 162 plus miles an hour because of the yellow flag. He's still running, however, 164, but all eyes are centered on the battle for third between Lloyd Ruby and A.J. Foyt. A tremendous duel between these two drivers from the Lone Star State. In traffic on the corner, but never letting up on the accelerator pedal. Ruby, number 25, Foyt the shirt, and Thompson Special, number 7. Tremendous Indy 500 Classic, the 54th running of this America's greatest race, and a record crowd looking on at some exciting competition here. Al Unser's the second car on the screen. He's the leader, coming down the back straightaway, and in second place is Johnny Rutherford. Here's Jim.
Let's take a look at the relationship between the first and second place car, Chris. There is Al Unser in car number 2, the second car on your screen at the moment. And now as we look back, there goes the leader, and here is the second place car, Johnny Rutherford. As you can see, he's still well within striking distance. But the battle goes on between Foyt and Ruby, and there's Foyt moving down to the inside, trying to take Lloyd Ruby for third place in the race, but being shut off by Lloyd this time. Wild and woolly, isn't it?
It certainly is. One of the wildest races I've ever seen. You know, we've always talked about drafting down in the south, the stock cars, but actually it's become quite important here at Indianapolis because the cars have been improved aerodynamically, and the idea is to hold the car down in the turn, but it slows the cars down the straightaway a little bit. So now with drafting, they can actually pick that speed back up again, and it does help to pass.
And now A.J. Foyt is in third place, ahead of Lloyd Ruby, car number 7, leading car number 25. A tremendous battle between two of the most experienced and capable drivers in the world for third place. And into the pits comes Dan Gurney. This looks like the first routine pit stop of the afternoon, but it's a little bit early, about 4 laps earlier than most of the drivers have been hoping for. And now here's another car out of the race. This is Gordon Johncock in car number 5, Jim Gilmore's Gilmore Broadcasting Special. Well, Jim still has one car left. Jack Brabham is racing under his colors this year, too. Al Unser in car number 2 is breezing along with the breeze at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He is leading by a comfortable margin in the 1970 Indianapolis 500 over second place Johnny Rutherford and the rest of the field. Unser in the California-built P.J. Colt car, owned by Parnelli Jones, who, by the way, was the last man to win this race from the pole position, and Unser is possibly in the process of doing exactly that right now. Car number 7 there, however, is A.J. Foyt, and there's number 25, Lloyd Ruby. They're still battling it out for third place in the race. The orange car of Foyt, the red, white, and blue, number 25 of Lloyd Ruby. And it looks like there may be some smoke coming out of Ruby's car just a little bit, but it could mean something. Into the pits right now is the lead car, however. This is Al Unser, and just past him goes Johnny Rutherford. The number 1 and 2 cars are in the pits, and we're timing Al Unser.
These are the routine stops, Jim, for fuel that should come at 50, 100, and 150 laps. Rutherford's crew putting in fuel in the offie. They're taking on some 65 to 70 gallons of alcohol during these very brief stops. And there goes Unser out in 20 and 1/10 seconds. Very quick.
Wow, that really is a fast one.
George Bignotti really knows how to run a pit crew.
Al Unser right back out again, but Rutherford is not out. Now they're pushing the car, having a little trouble getting it started. Lloyd Ruby is definitely smoking. Let's keep a close eye on that car, the man who moved all the way from the 9th row up into 3rd place. Rutherford is completely stalled, as you can see, and they're going to have to restart the car.
They have to put the starter motor back in, and Mike Devon and the Patrick Petroleum crew are getting a tough break right here because he'll most certainly lose his contending position.
All right, the lead car technically in the race is A.J. Foyt right now, closely followed by Lloyd Ruby. They're running 1st and 2nd because of the pit stops by the cars that work. And, however, look at that smoke. This is the most significant thing at the moment, coming out of Ruby's car.
3 out of the past 4 500s, Ruby has virtually had the race won when some unlikely mechanical problem manifested itself. And here again, whatever it is, it looks as though the snake may have bitten again.
Well, at the moment, A.J. Foyt is going to come into the pits, and Ruby takes the lead, but at the same moment, he's getting the black flag. I've never seen that before. As he took the lead in the race, because of Foyt coming in, Ruby got the black flag from starter Pat Vidan, and is going to have to come into the pits.
And the drama is compounded here in Indianapolis. Foyt is taking on right side tires, and that's his father, A.J. Foyt Sr., on the right rear wheel. Now, the other drivers haven't changed tires. This is a surprise for A.J. Foyt.
But out on the track, Lloyd Ruby is coming around, and he must come in, because when you're given the black flag, that is an order from the officials to come into the pits and find out what the source of your trouble is.
26 and 2/10 seconds. He's given away 6 seconds to Al Unser, Jim.
And here is Lloyd Ruby into the pits. However, it's kind of convenient. He'd be due in pretty soon anyway, wouldn't he?
The black flag came at the most opportune time a black flag could come, Jim. And they're checking over the transmission gearbox section of the car, which seems to be covered with smoking oil.
At this moment, technically, the leader in the race is Mark Donahue, who has not yet made his pit stop, and Jack Brabham, who is also due for a pit stop, is technically second. We return to Indianapolis, where Al Unser, in that beautiful number 2 car, is apparently breezing to victory. Right now, he's trying to put yet another lap on last year's winner, Mario Andretti, in car number 1. Tremendous performance by the younger of the racing Unsers. There's Parnelli Jones in the pit. He's the team manager and half owner of this car, along with his partner, Val Milicic. And there he puts the lap on Andretti. Quick reminder here that next weekend is another big weekend for racing on ABC. On Saturday on Wide World, it'll be the 24 Hours of Le Mans, live by satellite from Le Mans, France. And on Sunday, also live in ABC's Championship Auto Racing Series, the first race of the season in the Can-Am Series from Motorsport Canada, and interspersed with that will be a report on the finish at Le Mans. Right now, however, it's Al Unser way out in front of the second place car, A.J. Foyt in car number 7, who's about 35 seconds behind. Chris is now down with Johnny Rutherford. Let's go down there.
Well, Johnny, you're out of it with exhaust header troubles, but you were the first leader of the 1970 Indianapolis 500-mile race. You said before the race you were a Charger. Did you let Al Unser go by, or did he outrace you?
He just flat outraced me. There's a situation here with the drafts, and I knew if I let it into the first turn that he would probably pick me up down the back straightaway. I did expect a little more of a tussle out of AJ, but he did just what he said he was going to do, stick a higher gear in the car and try to go for the length of the thing. So it's working out good for him, and of course Al, he's running beautifully. The car looks real good, and I just hate that we're out of it now.
Well, John, you had trouble in your early pit stop. Your engine died, didn't it?
Yes, we had the clutch wasn't disengaging properly, and when I tried to put it in gear. It repelled and didn't want to go in gear. I pumped the clutch up as hard as I could. They rolled me as fast as they could, and I jammed it in gear, and as a result, when they two made it up and I just eased the clutch a little bit, it died, grabbed and killed the engine, and we had to back up and restart, and that would have hurt us all day. That plus every stop was the same way. The clutch just wouldn't work.
There's trouble in the third turn. That's Roger McCluskey driving in relief of Mel Kenyon into the wall, and this could be in real trouble. Ronnie Bucknam getting into it. Bucknam in car number 19, closest to you. McCluskey getting out of the car, and Sam Sessions just gets around McCluskey, but the other cars are still coming. The yellow light is on. Yellow flag has been put out, but the fuel is running down the track, and here are other cars coming through it. The Alert Fire Department in Indianapolis is always, and they're in a dangerous place right now. There's Dallenbach, Wally Dallenbach skidding, and Jack Brabham in car number 32. The cars haven't slowed down quite enough yet after seeing the yellow flag, and they're being waved down, flagged down to slow it down.
Part of the problem here, of course, is the fact that that fire is not visible, and these drivers are driving through that burning fuel, which is on fire.
McCluskey told me up around the third turn, then he took over from Mel Kenyon, and
of course, is the fact that he went out there with a full load of fuel, and so he actually had about 60 or 70 gallons of fuel.
Now that arrow shows you is Roger McCluskey.
Right.
Here's to the right rear. McCluskey.
Bill Buckley into the area on fire.
Comes Sam Sessions.
Just barely. Now Buckman's cars.
Sessions there. There you see things up under. It is slow.
It's getting bad at the track. Coyote.
And Ernie, fourth in the race, seems to be.
We had to take the win.
Now.
He did coming around. And it could be out, and then as he gets going slow enough, the fuel runs back to the pickup and was able to get going again.
Well, he's still holding his fourth position as we operate under the yellow flag here near the end of the 1970, and he's going into the pits. That looked like a last-minute decision.
Yes, I'm sure it was. He probably felt he'd better get in there and get some fuel.
Remember, Gurney was the first man to stop when it came time for the routine stop, so that car is using fuel.
Okay, Dan Gurney in the pits. Al Unser is still the leader. The green flag is out, and they're racing again in Indianapolis. In the closing laps, Al Unser of Albuquerque, New Mexico, has at least one full lap on every car in the field except the second-place car of A.J. Foyt, and he's trying to put a lap on him right now. That's Foyt in front, Unser just behind him. Oops.
Jim, there's a car that's blown its engine on the back straightaway. I believe it's Jack Brabham, a tough break for a guy who's really driven a great race today.
Jack Brabham, who started the rear engine revolution here in 1961, has blown his engine after running in the top 10 all day. But it's still Al Unser chasing A.J. Foyt, trying to put a lap on him.
Jim, we've got some new names in the top 10. Rookie Donnie Allison from the stock car ranks has moved into the top 10, and Jim McElreath, who started 33rd and last, is in there, as is rookie Rick Muther.
And now Al Unser has put that lap on A.J. Foyt, so there's nobody on the same lap with the leader. However, there's a real race for second right now. A.J. Foyt is closely pursued by Mark Donohue in car number 66, and they're both on the same lap, both within feet of each other now. Big money riding on second place here at Indy.
The speed of Unser for the race has dropped to 156.7 after an over 160 ride right from the start. That yellow flag did it.
And now Mark Donohue has taken A.J. Foyt and has moved into second place. Is now trying to get back on the same lap with Unser. And seems to be closing the distance on him a little bit.
Actually, the crew for Al Unser has given him the easy sign, and he has obeyed that sign. He's reduced his speed substantially, so it is possible that some of these other cars could unlap themselves.
Okay, it is Mark Donohue right now doing exactly that, getting on the same lap with Al Unser. So, now we have two cars on the same lap, but just by a matter of feet.
Of course, A.J. Foyt is still right behind Al, and he could conceivably unlap himself also.
Okay, and Foyt, of course, is still locked in a battle for second place with Donohue. And here comes Foyt, dropping down to the inside, and just about to unlap himself. He's now back on the same lap with the leader. Three cars on the same lap.
A yellow flag now, Jim, would enable these two fellows to go around and make up most of this lap. So Unser's really allowing himself to be put in a precarious position.
By taking it easy, in a sense, then, he's playing it kind of dangerously. Now here's a different signal. From the pits, they're telling him to speed it up a little bit.
They can't write "not that easy" on the pit board.
Nellie Jones seems to want his driver back out in front. Actually, what I think is he doesn't want his car behind these automobiles. In the event that anything should happen to them, he wouldn't be involved in an accident or something. So he probably wants them to move up and put another lap on these cars. And, of course, that would also ensure that they could not close up on Al if there were another yellow flag.
Okay, well, there is A.J. right behind Mark Donohue. A tremendous battle for second. Remember, it's Al Unser the leader, Donohue second, A.J. Foyt third, Donnie Allison is now fourth, and Jim McElreath is fifth.
Jim, 20 of the 33 starting cars are out of the competition. We only have 13 machines left on this speedway.
Boy, A.J. Foyt just loves to race. He came here looking for his fourth Indy victory today. He won't get that, but he'd sure like to have second place from young Mark Donohue, the Ivy League man in the field, graduate of Brown University. It's A.J. slowing down. Something's happened to his car.
An 11th hour problem for A.J. Foyt. What a tough break for this great competitor from Houston. His fourth victory out the window. Now it's a question of whether or not he'll finish at all.
Here is Al Unser, the leader. And in another part of the track, we noticed that Bobby Unser has also slowed down. That's another one of the leaders dropping back.
This moves Dan Gurney into third place behind Mark Donohue. A tough break for Bobby Unser because he's been in the top all race long.
And there you see the white flag. That means one lap for the leader. One lap for Al Unser. Three Unser brothers have raced here in Indianapolis. One, Jerry, was killed in an accident in the late 50s. Bobby Unser won the race 2 years ago. And now by completing this lap, Al, who celebrated his 31st birthday just yesterday, can complete the first brother act in victory at Indianapolis.
Foyt is hanging on, Jim, running low on the track. He's going to finish.
But it appears it will be Al Unser the winner right here, the Johnny Lightning Special, with Mark Donohue second and Dan Gurney third, Donnie Allison fourth, and Jim McElreath fifth.
Foyt's car's going extremely slow on the track. He's being passed by many cars, Jim.
The crowd of more than 300,000 on their feet now, paying tribute to the apparent victor. There's the checkered flag. He takes it, and it's all over. Al Unser has won the 1970 Indianapolis 500, the crowning glory of a race driver's career. And there's his pit crew.
You know, Jim, there's been talk all week long of the first $1 million purse here at Indianapolis. And if that should come through, Unser stands to win close to $275,000.
That would make it easily the richest sporting event in the world. And there goes the crew running for victory lane. Hey, I'm sorry to intrude here, but it seems to be the only place to get. If you look at that camera, Al, you have won the Indianapolis 500. First of all, can you put your reactions to that great achievement into words, and are they any different than you thought they might be?
Well, Jim, I really don't know if it's really true yet or not. I'm so excited right now that I think it'll probably take me 2 or 3 days to really get a hold of myself, and Corneli and my wife keep telling me that I won it, so maybe I can get over it.
Yeah, well, it's sure a little different result than last year, huh?
Yes, it is.
How's the leg?
It's very good. In fact, it came through today with flying colors.
Well, here's Al's wife, Wanda. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
And you have any words for your reaction?
I've got the same ones he does. I can't believe it.
And sitting next... Yes, sir.
I would like to say hello to my kids in Albuquerque. They're watching today, and Mary and Debbie and Al, I think that they'll be real happy over this.
I'm sure of that. Sitting next to Wanda is the last man able to win the pole on the race on the same day. Owner of the car, Parnelli Jones. Congratulations again.
Well, thank you. It's really a pleasure. I'll tell you, it's just as much fun winning as a car owner as it is a driver.
There's one other person we must have a word with. Mrs. Unser, congratulations.
Isn't that wonderful?
Will you tell me one thing? How in the world, when you're sitting up there in the stands, I've watched you many times, do you maintain what appears to be your composure all the time?
Well, you just do it because you have to.
Yeah. Okay, is it going to be a little chili cooked up tomorrow? Or?
No. Steaks and lobster.
Steaks and lobsters tomorrow for the Unsers. Congratulations again to all of you. And now here are the final official results. Al Unser, the winner, of course. Second place goes to Mark Donahue. Third, Dan Gurney. Fourth, Donnie Allison. And fifth, Jim McElreath. So it was at Indianapolis on Memorial Day. For now, this is Jim McKay, along with Chrissy Kanamaki and Roger Ward, saying so long from Indianapolis. Today's program was pre-recorded.